the Municipal Planning Commission. And we're going to start with introductions, and we'll go with Andrew.
Andrew Brishik, Director of Municipal Services.
And then Craig.
Craig Teal, Director of Planning and Development.
James Nyberg, Councillor, member, board member, and current chair for today.
Clint Walker, Councillor for County of Stettler.
Wade Hunter, Councillor, Ward 2.
Alan Gano, Councillor.
Larry Clark, Board Member.
Krista Schlender, Administrative Assistant.
Carly Tateson, Development Officer.
And Alan. Sure, you can. There's a mic beside you, but go ahead to that one. Just, yeah, push the. I got it. Okay, there you go.
Alan Burton. I'm agent for one of the applicants today, Salty Cat.
Okay.
And I have two people joining by Zoom. I don't know if they've logged in. Oh, Brandon McMillan. I'll introduce him. He's an engineer that's helped us on this project from Bunton Associates, and their expertise is traffic and road design, intersection design, that type of thing. And Ron Smith should be joining us. I don't see him on, but he helped us put together our application. He's a retired engineer as well, and he worked for 14 years for Alberta Transportation. And they're here just, you know, if questions come up or whatever, as a resource for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
And we also have online Justin Stevens, who normally is the chair, but he happens to be somewhere else. So, and just a note.
Hi, everyone.
There you go. Just a note, we sit as board members on here, not as councillors, but we do wear a couple of hats for that. Okay. Oh, and Stacy Crook. You know who she's with? Okay, there you go. Okay, all that, we've got that into order. Agenda additions and approval. Is there any agenda additions from anybody here? Seeing none from the board, from
None from administration.
none from administration, then can I get a motion? Mr. Clark, all those in favor, and Mr. Stevens.
In favor.
Thank you. Minutes, February 18th of 2026, page 3 of the package. Gentlemen, everybody had a chance to go over those. Any questions or concerns? Then, okay, Mr. Clark, I'll take you as well. Seeing no questions, concerns, all those in favor? Stephen?
In favor.
Thank you. Carried. Business arising from said minutes, there are none. And we will start with page 5 of your package, 6.1, development permits. Who's taking this?
I will be taking this one.
Awesome.
So Stacy Crook has submitted a discretionary use development permit application for a detached dwelling with an attached ancillary building. The subject property is located in Scenic Sands at 19 Buffalo Drive in the Resort Residential District. The applicant owns, actually, Andrew, could you go down to the images there? Yeah, there we go. The applicant owns the adjacent lot and is surrounded by the county's environmental reserve. The only neighbor would be those two lots across the street. The applicant had originally wanted to consolidate their parcels. However, this district doesn't allow for the second dwelling, so for that reason, they're going to keep them separate. The applicant is looking for a variance on the height of the building. The height to the eaves is below the requirement. Just the variance is applied to the total height of the building at 26 feet and 2 inches from 25 feet, so a 5% variance. The required side yard setback is 10 feet on either side, and the applicant is proposing a covered walkway on the east side. So that requires a setback of 5 feet, which is a 50% variance, and in the future to add on to a lean-to on the west side with a setback of 7 feet, so a 30% variance on that side. The development will require minimal tree clearing along the sides of the property as the center of the lot is mainly cleared out. The surrounded area is heavily treed with no properties beside or behind it. The development should not interfere with the amenities or affect the use and enjoyment of the neighboring properties. So with that, the administration recommends that the development permit application DP 26002 be approved with the conditions as outlined in the draft development permit.
Are there any questions for the board? I have one question as far as where the gas line's coming in. in? Did we have them okay this? They were good with natural gas coming in? It doesn't look like if they had to do work, where would it go? They have an existing one at the back, do they not? I'm just looking at the pictures. Is that maybe that's not a,
I'm not sure.
oh, okay. Never mind. I thought that building was something of substantial that had, okay. And Mr. Stevens?
I'm comfortable moving this with staff recommendation.
Okay. Any other questions and concerns? Miss, is it Miss or Mrs.? Mr. Crook?
Mister.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No problem. Nope, go ahead.
Okay. Calling the question then. No further issues. All those in favor? That is carried.
In favor.
Thank you. Okay, now would we, what's that? Okay, there you go. 6.2, page 15 of the package. So we're actually got this in order. Thank you.
I'd like to take.
Who's
credit
taking
for
this
that.
one?
That'll be me, Mr. Chair. That's kind of just luck of the draw.
There you go. Perfect.
So, thanks. We'll start with this sketch. So I'm going to not reiterate the entire report. I'll give you the brief Coles notes. This development permit is for the area shown on pink on the air photo that's up on the screen in front of you. So this is an expansion of a RV camp that was started back in 1979. And as a result of a recent SDAB ruling, or relatively recent, everything that's outside the pink area has been deemed to have non-conforming status. So it's not the subject of today's development permit application. Only the development use within the pink area is the subject of this particular development permit application. And that's an area that got expanded and more formalized as part of the RV park from 2018 onwards without having a development permit. So that's why the applicant is here today to, as a result of a stop order that was issued and then a decision from the appeal board on the stop order, is to obtain a development permit approval by the end of April of 2026. The area in pink is about 3.5 hectares of land. There's around 37 new stalls that you can see already occupied, courtesy of the air photo from, that's actually from 2021. Not all the stalls are occupied, but you get a general sense even on that air photo what the layout is like. There's a little bit of crossover in terms of the access and the sewer system with the existing park, but beyond that, and a bit of storage, and I'll try to touch on that as we go through the presentation. Andrew, can you scroll down a little bit more? It's just some photos in the materials that you can see about what the layout was like back in October of 2024, which is very similar to what it is now. Go on a little bit, thank you. So we're going to pause a little bit on that third photo. It's that one there. So this gives you a sense of the typical stall. So in the RF district, or recreational facilities, we do have standards for recreational campgrounds, but they're oriented towards those developments that are going to be condominiumized. In other words, there's going to be shared ownership of common space like an access road or a park or a shower building, and individual ownership of the RV lots themselves. That the standards that are listed in our land use bylaw are meant to apply to that form. And this particular application is not proposing to do a condominium. It will still be under single ownership. These sites will be leased. They won't be under a separate ownership title. So from that perspective, staff have used those evaluation criteria for the condominium form just to see how it stacks up. But Municipal Planning Commission has some latitude on how to apply those. And you're going to see that in the report as well. So one of the key items is how much space is there for an individual stall. So this is a very typical one that you're seeing. And when you go from post to post, so on the right-hand side, you can see an 82 maybe made out, and that's on the power pole. And then there's a non-potable water connection directly if you move to the front, thank you very much. And then the shorter little stubby is the sanitary sewer connection. So that's typical of the layout all the way down, defining one edge of the space or the RV site. And then there's space. In this particular case, someone had provided a deck. The gravel pad is where their RV would be. And there's still land enough closer to the access road for 2 parking stalls. Could be the tow vehicle or it could be a private passenger vehicle. and space on the site for some other smaller amenities. Going to those standards that we have the discretion to apply for the condominium, we will be looking for something that's at least 20 meters wide and 18 meters depth. And these stalls do meet that requirement. They're a little short on the area, but there still seems to be enough space. So administration doesn't think that that's a deal breaker or a critical factor to apply. And I won't go down through that. If you scroll down a little bit, Andrew, that table does go on for quite a bit of time in terms of the actual dimensions and the standards that we're looking at a later stage in the report. One of the key issues for this site development is Alberta Transportation's input for the access and the setback from Highway 21. And this drawing gives you an overview of the site plan that's part of the application, and superimposed on that is a very thick blue line, which represents Alberta Transportation's response to the setback question. So their official approval is they're okay with the series of stalls that you can see on the left-hand side of that blue line remaining until such time as either the province widens the highway and needs the physical space, or 2049 when their approval expires. After that, they would expect that area between the existing highway right-of-way and that thick blue line to be void of any services or RV stalls, which some of you will recall are road closure discussions for Gibson Avenue. That's where Gibson Avenue comes in. If you had to move things to the east, you'll need the physical space that's represented by Gibson Avenue, and subject to us concluding the overall road closure process and transfer, that will give the physical space to meet Alberta Transportation's long-term requirements for setback distance. Our land use bylaw does give, when it comes to the setback from highways, it does reference whatever Alberta Transportation requires. But that's not the end of the story. It also gives opportunity for us to apply a higher standard if the Municipal Planning Commission or Development Authority deems it necessary. In this case, administration is recommending that we accept Alberta Transportation's recommendation on the 20-meter distance. You're also going to find a condition that talks about how long, though, should it take to vacate that space and have that setback area, 20 meters, cleared of any existing RVs or utilities. Alberta Transportation is willing to give a longer time period. The administration is recommending a shorter time period. And you'll see that in the recommendation on the draft development permit, which indicates a 5-year time from the point where we conclude the transfer of the actual Gibson Avenue road closure, because you need that physical space to be able to do anything, to have made the transition over to that, to clear out that 20-meter space. So that is definitely a key topic for this particular application. Can we scroll down to the next stop? We're going to go to page 24, I believe is the next one I want to bring some attention to. So another key topic, actually two key topics, the influence of the Red Deer River and the floodplain along Tail Creek. So what you're seeing on that graphic is the engineering results to map out what does a 100-year flood event look like along the Red Deer River, and then the backup along Tail Creek. And anything that's in the red is what's called the floodway. So that's the area where the deepest waters will be flowing and the higher degree of risk. Where you see the light pink, that's still inundated by floodwaters, but it's typically shallower, not flowing as fast. So that's what's called the floodplain. In the clear space between the red strip going up the Tail Creek and the pink is where our development area is for this application. So the crux of it is that area we're dealing with today that is subject to this development permit is outside the flood hazard area. The 1979 development is not subject to this. It has a different fate. And you've heard that. I know some of you know about the ice jams and issues that have occurred over the last decade at that particular site. To address that, one of the proposals put forward by the applicant is for those that have rented sites or leased sites in the flood-prone area during the off-season, they would be able to relocate their site improvements, the barbecue, the shed, the kayak storage, what have you, RV, into the development area, so that at spring, it's a little hard to come grab and move your frozen RV. If there is an ice jam issue, they're in the clear. During the summer period, we're fortunate that Dixon Dam upstream will give us enough warning, and everything on those sites is mobile an evacuation order is a reasonable course of action to clear that out. So part of the consideration for this permit is allowing what looks like RV storage, but it's really related to the RV park itself. It's not meant to be commercial storage where anyone could rent a spot and drop off their RV for the off season. It's meant to solve the problem and serve the interests of those that have leases on this particular site. So that, if we could go on to page 70, oh, sorry, my mistake, wrong page, Andrew, torching you. Into the recommendations, we'll just walk through the actual draft development permit. So the recommendation is for an approval, and that's why you have a draft development permit in front of you. The first condition is very clearly is linked to the site plan that shows that pink outlined area, that's the subject area, and indicating that a couple things of modifications that are probably needed over time. So number one is looking forward to the day, whether or not it's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years down the road. The site plan doesn't show how that 20-meter area along the highway would be changed or moved out, and what kind of other changes may be needed, such as the access road to the immediate east to reconfigure and literally pull those sites over to the east. So within a year of the approval, if MPC grants it today for this DP, it's expected that the applicant would actually look at that and come back with a plan. That doesn't mean it has to be implemented right away. Can we scroll down to the next one? B and A are linked together because it's hard for me to identify at the stage of what that modification will look like. So there's a little bit of latitude that we're asking as a development officer to be able to look at that future amended plan, and provided we haven't violated any LUB standards or increased the number of stalls and we've met the requirement of A, there may be some other juggling or adjustments that are needed. C deals with the question of timing. So it is proposed to give that 5-year period from the time that Gibson Avenue is legally available to the applicant to look at physically relocating. So the clock doesn't start until we finish the the transfer of Gibson Avenue, but then it'd be a 5-year period to take advantage of some of the investment to date and facilitate more of a phased transition over. D is a backup plan. If for some reason the transfer does not occur, then we don't have to come back and get a new permit approval, but the expectation is that area would be cleared out, and it's been given a little bit more of a generous time frame of 6 years to achieve that. If we could scroll further down, the rest, so items, condition 3 is about the individual sites, and the objective is to give some clear parameters, but not to deal with development permits on individual sites. They're going to change year over year, and so long as they follow the parameters, that's in keeping with the development permit application or approval. C4 is recognition that this is a seasonal RV site. The services are winterized. The pipes are blown up. You're not blown out. You're not able to get potable water or non-potable water or sewage services during the off season. So to backstop that and to recognize that we've approved a seasonal use, we're putting in place a operational time frame of October 16th to April. Think about that. May 1 to October 15th would be the operating season. This condition speaks to the non-operating season during which you're not allowed to have overnight accommodation. Emergency response is already relatively in place. There's 3 gates. I do believe they open inwards, or there are a slide gate so they don't kick out towards the fire truck that's trying to get in. And that condition is that we make arrangements to allow emergency responders to be able to have a key or a way of getting in to the site either off season or during the regular season. Go scroll down, please, Andrew, a little bit more. Number 9 is, oh, sorry, my mistake. 8 first. Given that we're attaching 37 additional units and their associated services to an existing system that serves the other 71 units, so administration is recommending that that would be a follow-up from a plumbing inspector or safety codes officer to confirm that the system will still function, still meet the code requirements. The engineer has provided the data to show that it is a safety codes approval. It doesn't tip the balance to an Alberta environment approval. So it is safety codes that would be able to give us that written confirmation with a deadline of about a year from today's date if it's approved by MPC. Number 9 deals with the off-season storage issue that I was mentioning earlier. So that is to confirm, and I should point out that Mr. Burton has already indicated that he would suggest some changes on this one, and as administration, I would actually support the changes he's suggested. I focused on moving out of or sites 1 to 72 up to the higher dry area. But those that have RV sites within that area would also be entitled to leave their RV sites on in place during the off season. So a recommended change on that would be to drop the reference to sites 1 through 72. So it would just read that the last line, long-term use of one of the recreational vehicle sites shown on the attached site plan. So long as you're one of the 107 with a lease, you can be up in that higher dry area for the off-season storage. Number 10 is just a generic. I don't expect any nuisance issues. There's no dust really being generated. And the other uses in this particular area when it comes to noise are kind of doing the same thing. It's the campground across the street, or it's isolated away from the river valley. The closest are, I think there's 2 houses on the other side of the Red River in Red Deer County. So I don't have any particular concerns about noise and those kind of interruptions in this particular area. So with that, Mr. Chair, the recommendation is for approval subject to those conditions with the modification. And I think we should give Mr. Burton a chance to present as well.
You betcha. So I do have a couple of questions first, and then we'll go to you, Mr. Burton. We have board member Adam has just joined us via Zoom as well. Is there any questions from the board right now, currently? Mr. Stevens or Miss Adams? I'm going to go to, then I got you. Go ahead, Mr. Stevens. Son.
Nicely played. My first question, if you don't mind going to page 28, and that's the survey sketch. My question is it prudent to have some of the ancillary stuff inside of that highway setback? The pickleball, the mini golf, the office. I'm just wondering if we're given a 5-year time frame to move these sites out of there, do we want to include those ancillary amenities? And then the next question on this map would be the camp kitchen. Should that be included in the subject area?
Right, here we go. I'm going to actually ask Andrew to go to the other sketch that showed the 20-meter setback. It has some of the same. It is superimposed over the site plan, which is a little fuzzier maybe. So first up, Mr. Chair, the camp kitchen was considered part of the long-term development that came with 1979 development. And that's why it's outside of that. In this particular drawing, it's a red dashed line that identifies a subject area, and that's the area where this development permit would apply. So the camp kitchen is considered also non-conforming and went with the other package. Similar with the mini golf and the pickleball courts, but I just wanted to do some clarification on the setback distance. The thick blue line is where Alberta Transportation finally landed on their expectations. There is another line on that site plan, and you can see it plainly labeled that says 70-meter setback from the highway, which was a theoretical possible answer coming from Alberta Transportation. But they have issued a roadside development permit saying we're okay with a setback of 20, and we're okay with things staying there for the time being until we need the land to widen the highway, or 2049, whichever comes first. So from our perspective, for our development permit, we have to focus on what's within the red dashed line. We don't get to revisit the parking lot to the south, the mini golf, the pickleball, or the offices. And some of those, though, are beyond the 20-meter setback that all 80 has come back and indicated.
Does that clarify it for you?
Yes, that's good. My next question is around because we are dealing with a floodplain and there is a requirement for an ERP, should we include some sort of evacuation plan? And you suggested that the Dixon Dam would give us some warning, but I would definitely feel more comfortable if there was a plan in place when that warning arrives.
Mr. Chair, that a condition to have emergency response plan worked out with our Heartland
Regional
fire. I got to practice that a little bit more. The content of that is specifically left up for the chief to be able to work out with the applicant, so I don't see why that couldn't be covered for this site. Each of them is intended to be relatively unique for that particular needs and that use. So the condition has been attached to the development permit in a general sense, and I would encourage not getting into a lot of details and specifics on that. But the expectation is fire chief works on it. If fire chief comes and tells me that, Craig, I don't have a plan that I'm happy with, that'll then come back as as an unsatisfied condition for the development permit approval. We certainly we can relate to our colleagues at the fire department the flooding question as well, not just fire and not just heart attack and emergency response.
Mr. Burton, you had a comment just on
Thank
that?
you. Yeah, if I may, just to further Mr. Teal's answer. So our practice and the prior owner, we bought this just a couple of years ago. So the practice has been to move any RVs that are in the lower area up to the higher area. And again, this permit isn't to deal with the lower area. We just wanted you to understand that in that higher area, that's why these extra RVs are showing up. But the main point is that historically, any of those ice jams and things have happened prior to our season. So really what we need to do is when we leave at the end of September, we need to make sure everything's good for should a flood come around, right? So we can still have things like, emergency plans, but for the most part, we're trying to preempt that by moving those RVs out so that really there's nothing to evacuate.
Does that work for you, Mr. Stevens?
Yep, I'm satisfied with that condition.
Okay. Then I'm going to go to Mr. Clark.
The one, couple questions. The one site, that site right there, fire inspection is included as part of this plan, but I don't know what the rules are for fires there. And I see that beautiful treat area with that natural grass piece that would be in a ravine that would be terrible to try and maintain. So I don't know what the fire, if we look at open fire pits or what that piece is. But and then the other question is when we go back into that right-of-way piece with Department of Highways, I've driven that road for years, and when trucks have went off of that, is very concerning where the trucks end up versus where the sites were situated. So I really struggle with that piece right there, and any time frame at all to allow those trailers to still sit right along the highway like that.
So that was my concern as well with the truck liability. And you are relatively new to the area. We've had a number of trucks that have decided to leave the roadway there. Again, not our issue. That'll be you and the guy driving the truck and dealing with, but I don't want the county to be caught into that. So who carries the liability on that setback? If we have allowed them to have those particular RV sites and something was to happen, are we able to get a write-off somehow that we are not liable for allowing them to be there?
The short answer to that one's no. Can I go back and answer the fire pit
Oh,
question?
okay, I was going to go back to that one, but go ahead.
We're going to spend more time.
Okay,
on
go to the fire one first. Yeah.
Mr. Burton may have to help me on this. I didn't see anything in the material that had a ban on fire pits on the individual sites, such as you're seeing. But in the condition, I chose to impose similar concern or standards that we use for Bar W up at the lake. So that means if you choose to have a fire pit, and some of the sites may not be all the same, some of them may not have as many trees, the expectation is that there's a 10-foot clearance area around your fire pit at all times. There's a cover, and the fire pit is only, I think, a maximum meter across. So that may be a tall order on some of these sites. If you're too close to the car, you're too close to the RV, you're too close to the trees at back, or too close to the deck. But there are others. If someone has a small RV and they only have one car, they may be able to fit one in. And I'm sorry, I don't think I saw anything in the lease rules that said no fire pits. But.
No, what we do is we allow fire pits. We say that they have to be steel and that they have to comply with any bylaws set out by the county. So I'm fine to accept that recommendation from Mr. Teal on the fire pits. So I mean, that's a big concern. So we want to do what's right there. And so I don't have an issue with any of that.
Go ahead, Mr. Clark.
I don't know if any of our compliance would have it to the fact though too, that there's actually like the fire has to be properly put out, or there's lids that you put on at the end of your fire so that when everybody goes to bed, that if a wind comes up,
Yeah.
it can be, we've had so many fires in our county start from fires that are supposedly out. So it's just, when you look at that area and how that would be to fight fire and
Part
how
of our-
devastating it
yeah,
would be to your,
Part of our rules are that we have to have a steel grate over top of it, like the mesh to keep the ash in. So we're aware of those things and we're comfortable, whatever you want to impose, we're good.
Okay, and so Mr. Gannon, we're just going to finish the second part of that.
Can I ask one more question related to fire pit? I've not mentioned in the report, on-site staff are there during the operating season?
Yeah, we have 24-hour staff. They show up about 2 weeks earlier. And that's why Mr. Teal put that 2-week accommodation for someone to be there before we start. They show up in that first week of May, and then they're there really 24 hours. I mean, they might go to a wedding one evening or something, but they're there 24 hours. And it's a husband and wife team right now, and 3 of their little kids. And they live there over the summer, and then they're there. The mom and kids, because they're in school, they go back to the Cardston area. And then we have someone there right till about the middle of October. We close September 30th. So we have someone there, and because again, this is seasonal, so they flush everything out. And so, and we're strict on stuff, you know, it all works better if things go how they should. Everyone's happier in the end. So again, I don't have any issue with any of the suggested requirements for fire.
So just the liability on the setback, you said no, but
Mr. Chair, would you like me to give some comments on that
I'll
further?
first. and then,
Sure,
yeah.
you bet.
Your best bet, I guess, highest glimmer of hope would be shared liability. This is why doing your statutory requirements is important. That's the defense.
Mhm.
Did we look at it? Did we act reasonable? And how do you address the issue? Strictly speaking, avoiding liability is not always a planning consideration. I
Decision, yeah.
appreciate as counselors that we think about that a lot. It's about a good planning decision. There is room in the good planning decisions for safety considerations and avoiding nuisances or hazards. So
Just thinking about those Edmonton houses that the city of Edmonton got caught putting on the edge. Go ahead, Mr.
Thank you. Just maybe a little bit more of my background. I've been in land development one way or another for 30 some years, I guess. So I practiced as a lawyer before, so I can maybe help on some of that discussion about liability. So that is one of the concerns, and that's the exact thing that came to my mind, Mr. Chair, is, you know, when we're a municipality to approve a development on a hillside and then it slumps into the creek. You know, in the Lethbridge area where I'm from, we've had that. In the town where I live in Cardston, we've had that. And so it's a real issue. And so what I'd like to do is maybe we can find a solution. I appreciate Mr. Teal's walking you through. I think he's done an extremely good job of this. I would make one comment, and that's that with transportation, we hired Bunt and Associates, and Mr. McMillan's here from that firm. Their expertise, in fact, as far as I know, all they do is this type of thing. And we hired them because we felt they were clearly the best in the province. And they, on our behalf, made the application to Alberta Transportation. In the report that they prepared, which is in this rather voluminous set of materials, and I hope they're not charging by the pound, because it grew, is they did look at the traffic impact, and they looked at, one of the issues was the accident report. They reviewed that in some detail to make the report, and then we've had discussions with them after, and they've reviewed it in even more detail. And I'll get Mr. McMillan to comment here in a minute, but the province has said, well, the traffic studies show that traffic on Highway 21 is actually decreasing, not increasing. So the trend is away from problems, not toward problems. So when they issued what then was a 25-year permit, it's with the expectation that at the end of that 25, we can apply, if nothing changes, we can apply for another 25 years. None of us are going to be here to deal with that. Well, maybe some of us, but most of us will not be in the room when we're dealing with 25 years from now. So they did address that issue because Mr. Teal had raised it verbally with us before. And so we've looked quite closely at that issue. Just before I get Mr. McMillan on, the development that's there has been there for at least 8 years. And we acknowledge, looking at the reports, they're averaging about 1 a year that somebody leaves the highway. So as you come down, I drove it this morning, as you come down the two directions into the valley, there are signs that recommend lower than normal highway speeds, so 160, 165. And so in theory, people are going slower there. I would just also point out that those averages include accidents where there are animals involved, bad road conditions during the winter. And the traffic reports don't necessarily say how far in they go, but your experience would tell that story better than the traffic report would. But in some cases, they have said that they collided with at least the fence, which means they had to come somewhat onto our property. So as we looked at it, on a straightaway highway, the normal clear span that they encourage is the mandatory is 7 meters from the edge of the pavement. They want that collision-free zone of 7 meters, at least 5 meters. And then a maximum of 7, but that's for a straightaway. So when our engineers looked at it, we do feel that it should be more than normal there, even with the reduced speed limit, because you have both the grade coming down and a curve as well. So those combine to increase it. So 20 is sort of where our engineers landed. If you look at even the picture that's there right now, those pedestals, which have our utilities on them, are right at that 20-meter mark from the pavement. So some are like 20 and a half, some are 20, some might be 21. They're just right in that range of what we'd expect, not the normal maximum of 9, but a 20, we're still there. And so I think, okay, what could some solutions be? One could be that our permit allows us to go up to the 20 meters from the pavement, which gives that multiples of the 9, so that we have, not the 7, not the 9, we've got 20 or 21, or we could probably go 22 meters. Because again, we can connect to the utilities through an extension cord and whatever. So my point is that I think we can have a generous clear zone there as things are. The ideal would be, both our engineers told me the same answer. Actually, I talked to Volker Steven as well. They gave the same answer. The ideal is if the highway transportation fixes the problem and extends the guardrail, because there's a guardrail both directions coming down towards the creek. It just doesn't go far enough. And so the area in front of the subject area, most of it doesn't have a guardrail in front of it. So that's the ideal. Second best, if we are having some type of deflection or barrier there, when I spoke with Volker Steven, what they said that their practice is that they said especially to keep highway traffic from coming onto private land, they'll use the cement barriers, and you've seen them. They're in a scooping shape like this, and they're called. He gave me the model number. It doesn't matter, but anyway, when they use those, they're designed not to stop traffic, but again, to deflect traffic. They're designed to create a rollover. And he said they'll even put them immediately on the edge of the highway where necessary. Here we've got really 18 meters between the pavement and where we could put those, the RVs could still be where they are. And we'd be prepared to do that if that's a solution that MPC thought was appropriate. We'd bear the cost of that and do that. And so they'd be just inside the boundary, but before the actual RVs. In the 8 years at least 8 years that those RVs have been there, there hasn't been an incident that's come in. I think probably that's because when the RVs are there, it's in this time of year where the roads are clean, they're dry, it's the most daylight hours, those types of things. Having said that, I understand from your point of view that there's something that we should address. And I think those are two possible solutions, is a approach if the county feels it's a safety issue. I will say, though, that that's certainly something that transportation looks at when they grant a permit. And probably of anyone, they're in the best position to know. And they're the ones who are in the line of liability there first. They design the highway, they set the speed limits, they maintain the highway, they monitor speeding, the enforcement, those types of things. So I would suggest that we defer to their experience. If, however, the commission feels that there's more than that, then I would suggest those could be some of the options that we could look at. Would you like to hear from Mr. McMillan? Thank you. Brandon, do you have anything that you'd like to correct that I've said, or that you'd like to add for clarification for the commission?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's Brandon McMillan with Bunton Associates, Transportation Engineering. Alan, you did a great job summarizing our findings of the collision data and recommendations, how this would be dealt with. I just wanted to add one point of nuance with the clear zone next to a highway. So it's a clear space meant to serve as recovery distance, free of hazards for any collisions that may occur where errant vehicles go off of the highway. It's meant to be within the highway right of way and not be part of a private site, so that all collisions or errant vehicles are contained within the highway right of way. And where that clear zone can't be met within the highway right of way, there can be other mitigations to make the roadway safer, stop vehicles from going onto private sites, because that's never meant to be the purpose of that setback area next to the highway. So as Alan had summarized there, our findings would be to extend that guardrail that's currently at the steeper part of the curve, or some other mitigation to a roadside design to mitigate collisions and collision severity, so both frequency and severity, and to ensure that the private site is not being used as a recovery area. That's all I had to add.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Gano, and then Mr. Clark.
Thank you. If we go to the drawing that had the 20-meter line on it, I'd just like to understand. So the who applies, Craig, to Alberta Transportation? Does the county let them know? And this is the response. And maybe I'll finish. And so if there was alterations made, would it go back to Alberta Transportation to determine that? What is it?
So to answer, if in process-wise, applicants are able to, or landowners can approach Alberta Transportation for roadside development permit at any point. There's a separate application process that they put in. It's digital, and they can consult with the department about expectations on their highway, even as they're doing the design exercise for their properties. So we have set up our land use bylaw to say that's one of the base. If you're in that area close to a highway, we won't open your development permit application file if we know you need an answer from AT and you don't have one already. So we motivate applicants to go to them first. Mm-hmm. On other files,
And we did.
We actually, so when we're dealing with area structure plans or rezoning, we actually would reach out to AT, Alberta Transportation directly as one of our referral agencies. In this particular case, it was yes, the applicant definitely had their application in, and we had a chance to talk to the department. I think it took a couple rounds to get
Yep.
to this answer finally, clearly. So the applicant may have initiated the process, but sometimes the staff will reach out to the municipality to say, can we get your thoughts before we render a decision? But it is wholly Alberta Transportation's decision within the provincial right of way and within that control zone. So if they say we're okay with the 20-meter setback, then that's it. We don't have the right to impose conditions or make changes in the highway right of way. So one of the things that's specific to this application was we had a question about the width of the actual access and how that could confuse drivers because it's around 200 feet wide, which is a pretty big driveway. But Alberta Transportation in correspondence has decided that they will take responsibility for narrowing that at some future not named date as part of their maintenance program. So what that means is they'll actually come and take out some of the asphalt that someone may have put in a roadside pullout that maybe doesn't meet the safety standard. But that's why that access looks so wide. But they've taken upon themselves to remove that down. Otherwise, we would have had to be looking at a development agreement with the applicant to make those changes, which still need the design approval of Alberta Transportation. So it gets a little very convoluted in that respect.
And
I
we
missed part of your
suspect,
question though, didn't I?
So the other part of it was that there was some discussion here about alterations. And how would that work
The-
if
The alterations most definitely would need to go back and get Alberta Transportation's input and approval.
Thank you.
When you're talking the alterations, the barrier that they talked
Yes.
about. Yeah.
This is nothing against Alberta Transportation, but I have about 2 miles of highway frontage property. And from a liability basis, you can't, Alberta Transportation, you go after them. I've had things catch on fire in the ditch, burn out sections of fencing, wreck sections of fencing. And it is up to me as the landowner to try to chase down whoever had insurance on their vehicle to get coverage on it. So it does concern me, that liability piece within that ditch does concern me greatly. And the fact of, like I said, of having driven by, I'd never stopped at an accident scene and got out to measure, but it would just send a shiver up your back how close it was from the cab of a truck to the back of one of those trailers. And the trailer that the last one I'm thinking of was a vehicle hauling hydrocarbons. It had flammable liquid signs on the back of the trailer. I do believe we had to work on a spill after that, so it didn't enter the Red Deer River. So there is a lot of issues that could happen there. And with the county of Stettler having any liabilities in that issues at all, I do not like. So that's my big concern with those ones sitting right along the bank. As far as recreation area for people, I'm all for it, but that's that just from risk assessment does not look like favorable risk in my opinion.
And just as some anecdotal information, that used to be a store and it wasn't a pullout. It was an actual gas station. They used to pull in and fill up right off the highway. Anybody remembers that back in the day? I do. I also remember more than one time that where you have your pickleball courts. I have seen a very large tractor trailer parked there on the opposite side, not on its wheels, but on its back. So it happens coming both sides of the road. Unfortunately, you do have some issues. Now, can we have that as a condition that there has to be some barriers put up in the roadside right away? And I know it's not a planning issue,
No.
but for us, I think it would calm some of our nerves about the liability issue. You know, they're going to shotgun clause us, and it'll be us, you, and the province.
no,
And-
not arguing that point.
I will dare say the province has probably the most amount of lawyers next to us. And then even though you're a lawyer yourself, you may have, you know what you guys bill out at. So it's costly.
So to answer your question, can we require on our own installation of some sort of physical barrier on the private property to deal with the traffic hazard? Yes.
I think the
So-
suggestion from them was to put it in the right of way, but
well,
that's where I'm at.
yeah. Okay. So
Well,
we have some options. If we could put it on the private property, Though if you're still, it's still a development within the controlled area, so you still end up talking to Alberta Transportation. You can put it in the right of way, but now we're definitely talking about to Alberta Transportation because that's 100% their jurisdiction. So no matter how you cut it, we're going to have a discussion with Alberta Transportation about any engineering or physical change that's meant to address the safety issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and sorry for interrupting. I thought he was
Yeah, no,
finished.
you're good.
So what I'm suggesting is, and again, just trying to head towards a solution, is that we have Bunt and Associates or whoever, your condition would be that it has to be an engineered design, wherever it is. So whether it's engineered up on the road or whether it's on our property. And that whichever way that is, because the better solution is up on the road and we'd be willing to pay for that. The reason is, I don't know that we have anywhere else to put these sites, and it becomes very costly if you look over that many years to lose that many sites. So we'd rather pay for the barrier up on the highway. So the county's probably in the best position to approach that scenario since it's your concern. So either the transportation approves something along the highway, or they approve second best, a barrier on our property. Either way, we'd pay for either. Either way, they'd be engineered. Either way, they would have approval from transportation. That's sort of the more meat and potatoes of what I'm suggesting here.
Okay, and now just to clarify, and I'm hoping we're not going down the road that, so you would be looking for us to change from the 5-year limit to a longer limit. I'm guessing that's
Yes.
what I'm getting from,
Yes.
just so that everybody's on the same page.
Yes,
Let's just clarify that that's what
Yes.
you're asking for. It's not, you're going to
yes.
put the barrier up and then
Yes, we would.
still moving in 5
No, and that's a great point. Thank you for raising it. Between Mr. Teal and I, we've had probably 5 conversations with transportation about this. Not specifically, but I mean, this whole approval of the permitting process. And so the transportation is very comfortable with the 25 years, especially because that traffic count's going the other way, right? So they just, of course, can't do it in perpetuity. And so they said 25 years. So yes, our strong hope is that you will give us the same period of time that transportation gave us. And again, if we make them happy, I think we're there.
And I guess the only caution is you have a development across the way that has been fairly muted for the last little while. If they were to start up and be in full force, the traffic would be very much increased.
So
Just so that you're aware of that, I think depending on what that timeline.
Actually,
they're
we
looking
did
at.
we did the traffic study before they closed. So when we did it, we hired them to do a traffic count for us, and that was prior to
What are the dates? From when to when?
when we did the study. Interestingly, we were doing another development in Wetaskiwin County that needed a comparable, and we did it here for that. And just coincidentally, having no idea that this would come up, because we at the time thought there was a development permit. So I got to think back.
It's not planned,
During
so
COVID,
don't
I
worry.
believe. I believe it was during COVID.
Okay. So it's a
Like
non-issue on that
19,
one, just
20?
cautious, I guess.
Sorry, if I could jump in. 2023 is when we did our traffic count
Okay.
in May.
Okay. So to Mr. Teal, we would have to make that change that we would allow them a longer stay if there was a barrier.
Yes, certainly, Mr. Chair, what I do encourage you is to take advantage of your in-camera ability to deliberate. And that is certainly something that you could contemplate as a group. I think before we go to that step, that you're willing to do that, it's important that everyone have a chance to ask their last questions of Mr. Burton and myself.
Okay, Mr. Piano.
So we're talking about, is it 10 sites? Thereabouts?
I think, is it 8, Craig?
8? Okay. Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Sorry, how
that.
many?
The other item, can we go to the storage piece, Andrew, that paragraph? My question is, how do you manage, it's end of year and it's maybe August and someone wants to store and we still have people in that upper part? How do you manage that from a fire and escape perspective?
What, the RVs, you mean?
Yes?
So we haven't had that experience yet, but it could happen, certainly. So what we do is in our lease, they've already given us permission and a waiver of liability both to move their RV if they're down there. So one, it's been the practice, but two, we have it in writing and that we are authorized to hook up to it and we have the ability to do so. Hook up and move it at the end of the season.
Okay, and the words that are written now, Craig, don't, it allows them to be haphazard, I guess. I know you may not, but those words allow that?
So just for clarification, are you asking about the ones in the subject area or outside of the subject area?
You're going, as I understand, at fall, you are going to move into the subject area,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
when you move those in, I'm just concerned with how you store from a fire and escape and so on, because there still could be people in there in September and you're starting to move, or do you move them all at once?
We move them all at once.
I see. I had envisioned that maybe people would want to move, but you move them all
No,
the time?
in fact, we wouldn't let them move early.
Okay.
So in the lease, and one of these tabs has our lease if we need to refer to it, but what our lease says is that they actually rent this site for the whole year. So and that's our model. We don't do nightlies. We've done 2-year, but that's just as an incentive for newcomers. So it's 1-year leases. And so it's and in the agreement, it says that, look, if you're renting from us, when you sign the agreement, you give us authority at the end of your rental, at the end of the camping season is the word I'm looking for. So September 30th. So the 29th and 30th and 1st of October, those are busy days for us because we're moving all those to higher ground. And so even if they drove off in August and didn't come back, we still have we have a contractual right to move that RV into the subject area. And we were doing that even before we knew that there wasn't a permit and all of these things. That was our practice because of that flood.
Thank you.
So
Go ahead, Mr. Teal.
I'm not sure if I'm interpreting this correctly. If you're trying to make the numbers match with what's available in the subject area compared to the number that are outside. Okay. So there's just, I point out, probably you're doubling up on the sites. You're putting 2 RVs instead of the 1 for the season. And in addition to the parking area that's labeled in the middle of the.
We haven't had to so far. And the reason is because a lot of people take their RV with them. When I drove out there today, I should have counted really. I'm going to say 20, 22, somewhere in there, RVs were sitting there. So first of all, it's optional. And I'm going to say half the people take their RV, maybe more than half. But the ones nowadays, you used to have to own a dually to move your RV. Now they come in a Corolla, right? And they just leave it there year after year. And then they sell it to the next guy. And they never do own the truck. In fact, some of our dealerships now will deliver out to your site because you only have the Corolla. So that's our practice. And so far we haven't had to double, but we certainly would. And we also have that whole roadway that we can put them in as well. So.
And unfortunately, we do have to plan for the worst case scenario.
Yeah,
right?
no, agreed.
So, and that's
Agreed.
part of the planning.
Yep.
So are there any other questions? Board member Adam or Stevens? Or just giving a minute to.
Not at this time.
Okay. I do have one quite a bit minor, the garbage disposal. What is the plan to go with the garbage disposal? Because you guys are very far, probably the farthest we are away from our landfill.
Yeah, it's expensive. So what we do is we actually contract that out.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have somebody, they come by. Actually don't know the schedule.
It
Actually,
doesn't matter as long as there's a
Yeah.
plan in place for it
Yeah,
to
so
be done.
the whole time we've owned it, it's been contracted out, and they have like a milk run that they do, and they come by, and it's every 4 days, I think, but
Mhm.
I can't say for certain, but
Okay.
contracted out.
Mr. Hunter.
And we do have large steel receptacles for all the garbage to go into.
Okay. Mr. Hunter.
Yeah, my only concern is like what board member Clark said about the fire. You know, they have a fire, they go down the river and play. I really like the being around fires, not those tops they can just put on them. And they're really inexpensive,
Yep,
and
I agree.
I just think it could save a lot of nightmares.
Yep, and if we
And-
want to add that as a condition, I think
Okay.
that's a good idea,
Okay. Yeah, did you catch that about the fire?
to have the grate.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions at that time right now? So I would entertain a motion to go into camera for a few minutes because I think we would like to have a little bit of conversation. Mr. Hunter?
I'll make that motion to go into camera.
Okay. All those in favor?
In favor?
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a question, I'm happy to wait till after in camera. I'm happy to go home. You give me the direction that you think is best.
I think you're probably free to go.
Okay.
You did a great presentation, so thank you for that. And I think all the answered all the questions that we had. And I think if you have any more, you'll be in contact with
Okay,
Mr.
appreciate it.
So,
Thank you for all of your time.
okay, thank you. Andrew, you can make it. All those in favor? They had hands up. Okay, we're back. All right, gentlemen, we're have what's the
26003.
what page are we on? Help me out.
15.
Page 15 of your package and development permit. Get me to it. There we are. Development permit, DP 26003. We have a motion. We will have a motion to go forward to change 2C, 3D, which concerns the fire pit, 2C concerns lots 90 to 97, and to add number 9, which is the
Just to change to number 9.
just the changes to number 9. Okay. We've had fulsome discussion on this. Is there any other questions or concerns? I'm seeing none there. Can we get a motion with that?
I make that motion for 2C, 3D, and 9.
To approve
Approve
development
the
permit
amendment?
26003 with those changes?
Oh, yes.
Okay. Are there any questions or concerns that we're seeing? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
In favor?
Thank you. Very well done. 6.3. We got Wadstein. Who's taking this one? Awesome.
So Sean and Amanda have submitted a permit application for an oil field service or supply business minor. They have a previous permit for this from 2014 and are looking to replace the existing canvas covered structure with a 48 by 80 ancillary building. The subject property is located 10 kilometers southwest of town at 37568 Range Road 20-4 in the agricultural district. The business is an oil field consulting business with the only employees being the 2 permanent residences of the property. And the building uses will not change from the previous development permit. It's used for the maintenance, repair, and storage of the company equipment. The business is contained within the proposed development area, and the outdoor storage is less than 20% of the total parcel size. The proposed development is very well screened from the adjacent properties, surrounded with mature vegetation and screening fence. The closest residence is 350 meters to the south. There is not an overabundance of traffic to the area, with roughly 1 UPS delivery per week on average, and there have been no complaints or concerns found on file about this property by adjacent landowners. So with that, the administration recommends that the development permit application DP 26004 be approved with conditions as detailed in the draft development permit.
Okay, so I'm not seeing it as a page number and I don't see it on my package. Okay, it's not coming up
Yeah.
for me.
Page 33 on your MPC package has the map that there was just up.
Yeah, so 31 is where the RFD starts.
What one do you have up, Mr.?
That's the next
Kushik?
one.
Oh, do I have the wrong one up? Sorry.
Oh.
2607 up, but I'm looking for 2604.
Oh,
Oh, that is weird.
I know the property, I know the development, but I'm not seeing it anywhere in our package.
Yeah.
And there is no page number, but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Okay.
Mm.
This is in my area and I have no problems with it, gentlemen. I'm not worried about that. It's just not in our package, so. Okay, I would entertain a motion from someone for this one. It's pretty straightforward, so. Mr.
I'll
Hunt?
move,
Oh,
I'll move that we approve with staff recommendation.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Stevens. All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank
In
you.
favor?
6.4, now we're at there.
Okay, so Sheldon Donald has submitted a permit application for an oversized residential ancillary building with the size variance. The subject property is located 2 kilometers east of Stettler in the agricultural district. The application proposes the demolition of the existing building and construction of 2 sections, a 44 by 60 insulated section and a 24 by 24 uninsulated section, totaling 3,216 square foot. Because the building footprint is above 3,000 square foot, the application needs a size variance of 7%. The development complies with the minimum yard setbacks, and the access road has clear line of sight in both directions. The property is surrounded by agricultural land and should not interfere with amenities or affect the use and enjoyment of neighboring properties. The administration recommends that the development permit application DP 26007 be approved with conditions as detailed in the draft development permit.
Mr. Gano?
I will move that we approve development permit 26007 with recommendations, with the conditions as set out by administration.
Okay, any questions, concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
In favor?
Thank you. Moving on, 6.5. 42 of your package, ladies and gentlemen.
There we go. Danny has submitted a development permit application for an automotive and minor recreation vehicle sales. The subject property is located on the east side of Stettler at 3804 42nd Ave in the Highway Mixed Use District. It's the building southwest of the Heartland Regional Fire Hall. The building on the lot rents out the 3 bays that are there, and Dirty Details is currently operating out of one of the bays, focusing on automotive detailing, and he's looking to start selling 1 to 2 vehicles per month. In the photographs, you can see the lot has plenty of space in the front for customer parking, and in the back, there's a fenced compound to store all the vehicles. The development is within 300 meters of Highway 12, and it has received approval from AT for a roadside development permit. The administration recommends that the development permit application DP 26010 be approved with conditions as attached in the draft development permit.
Mr. Gano?
I'll move that we approve development permit 26010. It's approved with conditions as detailed in the information from administration.
Okay. Just through to administration, do we ask them to have an ANVIC license? Is that something that
They started with that and then realized they needed a permit, a development permit, so they're in the process of getting that sorted.
Fair enough, yeah. Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Mr. Stevens? Going once, Mr. Stevens. Going twice. He must have stepped out, so we will call that carried without Mr. Stevens.
In favor. I
Oh,
was just having some technical difficulties.
excellent. Okay. Next up, subdivision file Fitzgerald 7.165 of our package.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And you could bring up 73, assuming it's in there.
It is.
Great. Okay. So this application is just to the east of town. It's actually one of our staff's application, which Fitzgerald is the occupant and the applicant, and the Hutterite Colony is the landowner who's authorized him to make the application. It's to create a just under 4.7 acre residential parcel. And you can see it circles around an existing house, an existing shelter belt, and takes in the driveway to the south and half of the driveway to the north. So the application doesn't have a lot of issues attached to it. The Range Road 19-2 is already wide enough to meet our requirements. The 2 access locations do have good sight lines. There is a need for brushing for the north one. Sorry, my mistake. No, it is the north one that has the need for a bit of a brushing from the photos, and that's usually something that we ask our crews to go take out once we put it in the system for them to take care of. There will be an easement, a need to have an easement sharing the driveway across the north edge of the property. So that's proposed to be split between the house and the other agricultural buildings and agricultural land to the north and part of the remainder parcel. Can we jump to 84 for a second, Andrew? So this same holding was a subject of an application just at the end of, actually, beginning of this year. There's a 2025 file, but we dealt with it in January. And it should be page 84. Yeah, thank you.
I don't have a page 84.
Oh, you don't have a page. Okay, you're on the right one.
Okay, this is 81.
Yep. So this is the sketch from that previous approval that is still going through the process of satisfying the conditions and has yet to be registered. And you can see at the very upper right, the house and the shelter belt. That's where that proposed parcel of 4.7 acres would be created. And both the west property boundaries would coincide, and the south property boundary of that parcel would coincide with what you're seeing on the south side of the driveway on this sketch. So the application that's in front of us today is considered the second parcel out of the quarter section, which means municipal reserve dedication is owing. That's based on 10% of the 4.69 acre parcel. And then we use a cash in lieu value of $2,428 per acre. So we would take the 4.69 times 10%, so around 0.46 of an acre. So that brings in a municipal reserve cash in lieu contribution expectation around the $1,300 to $1,400 mark. The specifics are actually in the condition set, which is found on page 70, which you don't have a page number?
The pages just weren't lining up with yours. Oh, but
That one did.
that one.
Okay. So that is the subject of condition number 4. The easement I was mentioning is the subject of condition number 3, and the brushing for the access is condition number 5. So with those in place, administration recommends approval of the proposed subdivision.
Okay, any thoughts, aspirations? Mr. Gano?
I move that we approve the application sub 2026-01, subject to the conditions laid out by administration.
Okay. Is this applicant, does he know what he's doing?
Yep.
He should. Okay, no questions or concerns? All those in favor?
In favor.
How about the other 3 of you? Hands up. Okay, sorry, missed it. You're in? Yep. Okay. I was looking at Mr. Stevens, and my apologies. Okay, next up. Department report 8.1, page 82 of our package. You're too quick, Mr. Hunter. Shooter.
So it was a slow start in 2026 for development permit applications, but things have picked up and we're roughly in the same boat as we were last year. So that's looking good. With the spring weather, we've gotten quite a few more even within the last week. And we expect to see a steady increase in applications heading into the construction season.
Okay. Any questions? Any concerns? Any thoughts? Okay.
It's early in the year.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Get someone to move that report.
I'll move that report.
Thank you, Mr. Gano. Receive for information. All those in favor?
In favor.
Thank you. New business, anything? Old business, nothing? Word? Did Mr. Hunter? Yeah. I appreciate that. You're a good fellow. Your humor is an acquired taste I haven't acquired yet. We already did our in-camera. Next meeting is Wednesday, April 15th. Hopefully it'll be chaired by the MPC chair. One last one that we need, Miss Adam. All those in favor?
In favor.